Let's talk about TheRealReal's new policy, which is not helpful and still doesn't take responsibility for bad listing descriptions and pictures. So, little mini reveal, I recently bought this bag. I've been looking for the classic Ferragamo top handle. I did not want it in black because it's too similar to the other version of the top handle that I have in black. And so I was looking for a while, came across this red. Really loved this shade of red. I've found a more orangey based red before, but loved this blue based red. Was really excited about it. I found it to be priced a little higher than I wanted to spend. Finally pulled the trigger on it at 60% off. Of course, at that point it was not returnable, though none of their bags are returnable. So I don't know why I even bothered to say that. Clothing, sometimes you can return if it's only been discounted 20 or 30%, I think. I think once it's gone past 40, though it might be 50, you can no longer return. Well, this was 60% off when I bought it, which was a good price. It was a really good price. It had a ton of watchers on it, and once it dropped to that 60, I decided to buy it. I bought it with the assumption that their policy would be the same as it always has been, which is that they don't take returns on bags, but if a bag is not as described, you can contact customer service and return it. Not so much anymore. So TheRealReal's new policy now have a new scheme, I'm gonna say, that allows you to buy basically like purchaser protection, to buy the ability to return items back to them. And they're outsourcing this to a third party. Now, apparently the reviews of this have been terrible. The third party just doesn't ever get back to you. They have no communication. When you finally get a hold of somebody and can return something, it takes forever. You don't get back your sales tax. You don't get back the money that you paid for shipping. You don't get back that fee that you're spending to return things. So not only do you have to spend money now to return an item, which should just be part of the TheRealReal's policy, but now they're outsourcing that, so you can't complain to them when there's an issue, really. And if you don't buy that, then there's absolutely no way for you basically to return something, even when it's not as described. So understandably, people are not so pleased about that. TheRealReal has always been too big for its britches in terms of pictures are few and far between. They're not super accurate. The listing description will sometimes say a couple things, but it doesn't give you a ton of stuff. They're known to have mismeasurements, but they have a great selection of stuff. Yes, of course, there's going to be some issues where some authenticity issues where things slip through the crack. You should always do your due diligence and get a third-party authentication on things. But it is a great place to shop secondhand because it has a really good selection. And sometimes very good prices. The pricing fluctuates a lot. I always felt comfortable because they'd always basically righted their wrongs when they had listed things that, it was a process and it was annoying when you got something that wasn't as described or was more damaged or whatever. But I always felt more comfortable with it, but not so much with this one. And basically the issue with this is if this had been listed as being in perfect condition and then wasn't, I think they would have let me return it, but they listed this as fair. Fair is not their worst, the as is their worst. But of course it was something that was not going to be in a good shape, and that's why it was such a good price. And I totally get that. I would have been happy with it if the pictures had been better. Now, the reason that they said that basically the biggest issue, obviously there's some of this stuff here that can be fixed up. There's some scratches. I knew about that. None of that bothered me. What bothered me so much is the handle. And I don't know if you can see just how terrible, but this handle is about to rip straight off this bag. They said in the listing, and I just didn't read the description well enough, they said, tear at handle. So they wrote that, and something that, I should have paid more attention to, but in the listing pictures, you see is a little nick in the piping. That's all you can really notice. So I did not realize that 1, it was both handles. 2, it was about to rip straight off the bag, that it is in just such terrible shape. They also said the handle was slightly misshapen. That, again, did not bother me very much. So I get this and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is literally unusable. I mean, yes, I can attach the crossbody strap and only use it like that, but this is going to fall off of the bag. Again, listed as fair, whatever. I immediately went, contacted customer service, was going through this whole thing, and the guy was like, listen, I really want you to be, I get it, I want to be able to return this for you, but they are rejecting it every time I tried because it was listed as fair condition and because you didn't buy this return protection. So that is my warning story to you all. Make sure that you're actually fully reading. The pictures are only ever going to give you a small glimpse into the actual item's condition. Make sure you read the fine print closely and make sure that you know, basically, they said because it was listed as fair, I just couldn't return it. Like that was really what it came down to as the bottom line. Yes, they did write that there was an issue in the description, but they didn't even care so much about that. It was because it was in fair condition and it was advertised as being in fair condition, you could no longer return it. So yeah, even if there's an issue anymore, you can't do that. And then of course there's this whole, I think it's problematic in general that they're asking people to pay for an insurance policy basically to return something. But then from everything that I've heard, the actual process of doing so is really hard. And so is it worth it? That's up to you all, but personally, I don't think that I would bother with that. And then I am going to be very weary about buying bags that are not listed as being in great condition from here on out from them. Just wanted to tell you all basically how unhappy I am with the changes that TheRealReal has really made to their return policy and how kind of strict they're being about it, even when something is their fault. And maybe you don't agree with me. Maybe you think that because it said it in the description, it's on me. And I do take some responsibility for that for sure. But yeah, this is definitely needed to be, like, this is something that you have to show in pictures. Like, you can't just say that. Like, it's a really, really important aspect of the wear and of this bag that just was not shown, in my opinion, well enough. So let me know your thoughts. Like, am I overreacting? Is it really just fully my fault for not reading that carefully? Or would you have been upset before? And would you have felt confident buying it in the same way that I did because they had previously always accepted returns in that sort of issue, or when that sort of issue came up? Or, you know, what do you think about the new policy and the new changes? So let me know all of that down below. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in a future video.